So we'll begin today's session. So I want to thank all of you for coming here today for our 18-day session. So today we will be discussing chapter 8, which is an interesting chapter. But before we begin, let us do our Mangala Charan and also chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra 3 times. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishta Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Supadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Deshakarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Giram Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So today we're going to begin by reviewing chapter 7. Did anybody notice what was the single word summary for chapter 7 on the poster that we posted yesterday? What was the summary word for chapter 7? You can put it in the chat. Boss. That's right. Who's the boss? Why is the summary for the chapter called boss? There must be a reason. Yeah. So Krishna is the boss. The boss is introducing himself for the first time. All along in the 6 chapters, Arjuna has asked some questions, and so Krishna is very sweetly answering those questions. So because Krishna said Bhakti Yoga is the best, who do we perform Bhakti Yoga to as per chapter 7? To Krishna. How do we perform that Bhakti Yoga? Well, you begin that process, you begin that journey by hearing and by chanting. Shravanam Kirtanam. Shravanam means hearing. Kirtanam means 2 things. Kirtanam means listening to pravachan. Kirtanam also means sharing this message with others is also Kirtanam. So Krishna is introducing himself for the first time in chapter 7, although he does introduce himself in chapter 4, right? He tells us who he is, why he comes, how frequently he comes, what is the purpose. All of that he tells us in chapter 4. But in chapter 7, Krishna is saying, hey Arjuna, hear very, very carefully because I'm about to speak something very, very important. I'm going to let you know who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in yesterday's chapter, we discussed 2 types of knowledge. What are the 2 types of knowledge? You can put your response in the chat. What are the 2 types of knowledge? Material knowledge and what is the other one? Spiritual knowledge. So 2 broad categories, material science and spiritual science. Both have something in common. What is that? Both material knowledge and spiritual knowledge have one thing in common, without which you cannot really have any faith, belief. That's correct. Even to accept material knowledge, you have to have belief. Correct? We have to believe that 2 plus 2 is 4. We have to believe that the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. Similarly, for spiritual knowledge also, you need to have faith. You can't suddenly apply your logic and say, well, that doesn't make sense. You have to have faith. Just like we have faith in the press, in the government, in teachers, in science, we have to have faith in Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. And of course, we have to have faith in the Supreme Lord Himself. Without that, we cannot make any advancement on the spiritual front. So there are two ways where we can learn. One was called ascending, the other one was called descending. What is the ascending way of learning? What is the term in Sanskrit? Two terms we looked at. Learning through the ascending process and learning through the descending process. Yes, very nice. Arohana is ascending. What is the other one? Avarohana is descending. Which is better and why? Arohana better or Avarohana is better? Avarohana is better. Why? Because it comes in the parampara system. You just accept what has been taught to you because it has already been validated, proved, substantiated, realized. You could use all those terms. But then, in one of the processes, the Arohana process, we said it has certain flaws. The Arohana process, when it is used in understanding material science, it comes with 4 flaws. What are the 4 flaws? What are the 4 defects that a human being has? You're correct. The Avarohana method is the quickest method because it's already been proven, it's already been tested. You don't have to start all over again. Yes, very nice, Lokesh Prabhu. We have a tendency to make mistakes. Yes, Sapna Mataji, we have a tendency to be operating under illusion. Yes, Ajay Prabhu, thank you very much. We have a tendency to cheat ourselves and also through the process cheat others. And lastly, illusion. Yes, illusion was also already mentioned. So illusion, making mistakes, cheating, and one more. One more. What is that one more thing? 4 defects. We don't have perfect senses. Our senses are imperfect. Our eyes cannot see in the dark. If it is pitch black, your eyes are of no use to you because you can't see. Yes, so like that, our ears cannot hear as well as a dog can hear. So the Lord has given different types of strengths when it comes to senses to different types of animals. We can't see as good as an eagle. An eagle can see 6 miles away. So we cannot see as good as the eagle. So therefore, the ascending process has some flaws because you are primarily depending on yourself to try and understand this vast system of knowledge. Material science or spiritual science, it does not matter if you use that particular approach. And we saw that the Lord is free of defects and so are his pure devotees. And we went through the pastime of Krishna marrying so many princesses and why that happened. We went through the pastime of Lord Ram with Sita Devi. What was the Lord's intent there with Mother Sita? We took an example of a husband and wife. The Lord wants to protect his devotees. His devotees should not get the blame for anything. And therefore, the Lord shifts the blame to himself. So anytime we talk about Ramayana, we never ask, why did Mother Sita commit a mistake? But we always ask, why did the Lord do that to poor Sita Devi? So the Lord simply takes the blame upon himself so that The attention is focused on the Lord and not on his devotees. That is the beauty about the Supreme Lord. He loves his devotees so much, he can change the situation so that the devotee does not take any blame. Yes. So, even in the binding pastime of Lord Krishna by Mother Yashoda, nobody questions why Mother Yashoda bound Krishna. We quite enjoy the fact that Mother Yashoda was able to bind the little boy who was mischievous. If you see in Vrindavan, the gopis enjoy this pastime. They feel, yes, this boy Krishna deserved it. He's too naughty, he's too mischievous, he's always lying. He's always up to some pranks. So they feel quite thrilled. Yes, finally, he got the punishment that he deserved. He was bound. But again, if we go deeper into the pastime, we understand that Krishna was bound by the ropes of love. It is your love that binds you to Krishna and nothing else. Right? So we must have faith, even if we may not have a complete understanding of the Lord's pastimes. We must have faith. So we must have faith and we must have patience. Therefore, Krishna says not everybody can understand him. Not everybody can understand his nature. Not everyone can understand his pastimes. That is reserved for his pure devotees. Only they can understand why the Lord does what he does. Even Narada Muni could not understand Krishna. Tomorrow we'll see even Lord Brahma could not understand Krishna. Certainly you could say Narada Muni has a closer relationship with Krishna than perhaps you and I do. We could say Lord Brahma is a powerful Devata, so certainly he should know the Lord better than you and I do. But even Lord Brahma gets bewildered. Indra gets bewildered. So Krishna has this great capacity to bewilder those who are in top positions. Or those who take or think that they really know Krishna very well. Yes. So, but Krishna also expects that you learn through asking questions, by seeking answers. And the best way to hear about who is Krishna is directly from him. And therefore Krishna says, I am the source of everything, both matter and spirit. All of the 5 elements I have created, and Krishna says they are my separated energies. And Krishna then talks about the superior energy that is also separated from him. And this superior energy is manipulating the inferior energy matter. And the superior energy is called the Jivatma. So Krishna is saying, I am the source of everything. I am the source of life. I am the source of matter. And beyond me, there is nothing. Therefore, we can understand that everything comes from the Lord. And in this regard, we can talk about a small pastime between a scientist and his close friend who was an atheist. So Isaac Newton was a very well-known physicist, brilliant, a brilliant scientist, but he had tremendous faith in the Supreme Lord. So he accepted that there was a God and that there are certain things that man may not be able to understand and may never understand. So Isaac Newton had a friend who was an atheist. And one day Isaac Newton had, a replica of the Milky Way created. By an artist who produced the replica not in the form of painting, but actually constructing the Milky Way but in a very, very small scale, with the sun in the middle and all of the other planets and stars, etc. Each uh, built in a very scientifically proportional way, including the size variations of the different planets, the distance variations of the different planets from the sun, the moon, etc. And this machine was created in such a fabulous way that when you rotated the handle, all of the planets would move in their respective paths. So Newton's atheist friend had come to see him, and he was wonderstruck by this beautiful artistry. And he wanted to know from Newton who had actually built this. And Newton said, nobody. Why are you asking me who built it? It just appeared. So the scientist, atheist friend said, but how can you say it is nobody? Certainly somebody put in effort, somebody had some intelligence, somebody took time and to create this replica of the Milky Way. So pray tell me who made this? And Newton again responded saying, nobody. To which the atheist friend scientist got very exasperated and he said, come on, you really don't expect me to believe that, do you? That nobody created this? To which Newton told him, you are not willing to accept when I tell you this was not created by anybody, but this is a mere image, a puny image of the real thing. You are saying the real thing is an accident, but a replica of it is not an accident. So the real thing, the real Milky Way was also constructed by a creator who's very intelligent, who works with such precision that a human cannot replicate. So in this way, the atheist hopefully came to his senses. I don't know how their conversation ended, but it just proves the point that when you approach everything from a logical standpoint, it can sometimes be very easily defeated. So if the real thing is there and somebody created a replica of the real thing, then certainly the real thing also has a creator. If you don't believe that the real thing has a creator, then you should also not believe that the replica has a creator. It just appeared out of nowhere. So therefore, Krishna says there are 4 categories of people who accept him and 4 categories of people who reject him. Yeah? So those who do not acknowledge him and those who do acknowledge him. And Krishna concludes this particular chapter by talking about who actually gets to know him. And he says those who have burnt away all their sins by performing some bhakti, they begin to know who he is. Right? Therefore, everything has an intelligent design behind it. Therefore, the 7th chapter, the single word summary for the 7th chapter was boss. Who is the boss for all of us? It's Krishna. So that brings us to chapter 8. So the first 6 chapters we said is all about Karma Yoga. And the 6th chapter concludes with Krishna talking about the superiority of practicing Bhakti Yoga. And Krishna actually emphasizes and says, yes, Bhakti Yoga must be performed. Now, in the middle 6 chapters, Krishna is talking about who should you perform Bhakti to, and what should we do to perform this Bhakti, which we saw in the 7th chapter. And Krishna also says that if we do Bhakti Yoga, then certainly we will go back to him. We will go back to our original home. Now, Arjuna has a doubt after hearing Krishna talk about himself and how if you perform Bhakti, you will actually come back to Krishna. Therefore, Arjuna's question here is, are you sure Bhakti is sufficient for me to come back to you? Because it seems like such an easy thing to do. So how do we actually go back to God? That's nice that we are all performing Bhakti Yoga. We do a little chanting, we do a little Shravanam, we do a little reading, we honor Prasadam every day. But what's the actual process for going back to the Supreme Lord? Therefore, is Bhakti enough? That's the question. So in the second shloka, Arjuna is asking, Adhiyajna katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham yeyo siniyatatmabhi. Who is the Lord of sacrifice? And how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Actually, there are three terms that Krishna uses in the previous chapter. Therefore, Arjuna is seeking clarification on those terms. So who is this Adhiyajna? The person who accepts all of our sacrifices and all of our austerities. So Arjuna's question is, you are saying all of us should engage in devotional service because you are the Supreme Lord. So how do I remember you at the time of death? That's the question. So Krishna's expectation is that we should remember him at the time of death. You know, normally in our day-to-day life, we are consumed by very mundane questions. Oh, what should I cook today? No, what should I wear today? Which job should I accept? Which girl should I select as my wife? Or vice versa. So many mundane questions we ask. But Arjuna is asking a very important question. What happens at the time of death to us? How can we be assured that we will go back to Krishna at the time of death? That's the question. So otherwise we are leading an animal life. So the only question that distinguishes man from an animal is how to reach Krishna at the time of death. So our entire life is consumed with mundane questions. Where should I buy property? You know, how should I invest my money? We never think that one day I'm going to die. What's going to happen to me after I die? That is really Arjuna's questions here. So Krishna says in shloka number 5, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaf prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah. So to respond to Arjuna's question, which is, how can I remember you when I die? Krishna says, and whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this, there is no doubt. So Krishna is saying our final exam actually comes at the time that we die. At the time that the soul exits the body, Krishna is saying whatever we remember, that is what we're going to get. If we remember Krishna, we're going to get Krishna. If we remember anything else other than Krishna, then that is exactly what you're going to get. But what is the guarantee that we can remember Krishna at the time of death? Let's just take a small example. A soldier trains every day of his life to protect his nation because the enemy is not going to announce I'm going to come on such and such a day and I'm going to attack in such and such a place. So soldier is always alert. Otherwise, he's of no use to the nation. So he has to practice every day in the hopes that if at all an attack comes, I am ready. Right? Similarly, we, the Jivatma that is occupying this human body, must always practice so that when that war comes at the time of death, we can actually remember Krishna. So that is Krishna's expectation, is that if you know that you will be successful simply by remembering Krishna at the time of death, then certainly we should have been practicing all the time. Now keep in mind Krishna saying there is no doubt, if you remember me, you will come back to me. And the same thing extends, if you don't remember Krishna, there is no doubt you will achieve what it is that you were remembering at the time of death. And we were talking yesterday about Bharat Maharaj. What happens? He hands over the kingdom to his son and decides to retire to the forest at a relatively young age with the hopes of attaining Krishna. So he goes into the forest and he is practicing his sadhana very nicely, without any disturbance. And one day he hears the cries of what seems to be an animal in distress. So here is a mother deer that is trying to cross a river, and it hears the roar of a lion or tiger, and out of fright, it loses its baby into the river. So the mother loses its life, but the baby deer is saved by Bharat Maharaj. So he picks up the deer, rescues it, takes it to his ashram, and begins to take care of it. So I have my first question for you for today. Should Bharat Maharaj have saved that deer? So you can put your response in the chat. Should he have saved that deer? Because after all, he was doing bhajan. Isn't his bhajan more important than the deer? What do you think? Should he have saved the deer? He saw the baby in distress. Okay. So almost all of you are saying yes, except one person. So we are saying that saving a life is more important than your personal bhajan. Very nice. So yes, he should have saved the deer. What should he have done after he saved the deer? Should he have kept it as his pet, or should he have released it back into the forest? So the question is, should he have kept it as his pet? Okay, some of you are saying release it safely. Some of you are saying he should have kept it as his pet, which is what he decided. He wanted to take care of it because he got attached to the deer. He was feeding the deer every day, making sure it was fine, making sure no other predator was attacking it. So he was fully taking responsibility for protecting that deer. And because he got absorbed in taking care of the deer, he forgot his bhajan. He forgot his sadhana. Is it possible for a human being to protect every animal from its predator? Is it possible? There are so many other animals in the forest that where Bharat Maharaj was doing his bhajan. Can he possibly save every single life out there from the predator? No, he cannot. So yeah, do the right thing, but don't get obsessed and too attached to something if it prevents you from doing your Sanatana Dharma. And that is where Bharat Maharaj made a mistake. He got too attached to the deer. And because he was so worried about who will take care of this deer when he was passing away, he actually became a deer in his next life. But the Lord was so kind to him because he had done a little bit of bhajan. He made sure he was born. Remember, Krishna says, if you do a little bit of bhajan in the 6th chapter, where you will go? You will be born in a pious family, an aristocratic family. Oh, but then, what was Bharat Maharaj thinking about at the time of death? He certainly was not thinking about Krishna, because if he was thinking about Krishna, he would not have taken birth as a deer. Because he was thinking about this deer, he actually became a deer in his next life. But Krishna is so nice, he protected his sadhana. He didn't give him a human birth. He gave him the birth in the body of a deer, but he made sure that this deer was born or lived around the ashram of sages. So you see how Krishna protects your sadhana. Even though you make a terrible mistake, he somehow managed to give a little bit of remembrance to the deer, so much so the deer remembered, I was Bharat Maharaj in my previous birth, and now I am occupying the body of a deer. I will not make this mistake again. Because the deer got the mercy of the sages in the ashram, in the next life, Bharat Maharaj comes as Jada Bharat. And as Jada Bharat, he is determined he will not make the mistake that he made in his prior life. He's determined that this time I will do my sadhana and quit. Quit this material world. So death may come at any time for us. We have to practice bhakti throughout our life. And Krishna is saying, you better be ready to remember me because that's your final exam. So how can you remember Krishna? That's the question now. How do you remember Krishna at the time of death? I love this photo of this little baby reading the Bhagavad Gita. So 3 things that we can do, which we've already covered. We should do Harinam Japa, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Even someone who did not want to remember Krishna, who could only remember his son by the name Narayana. The Lord is so kind, he thought, oh, he's calling me. The Lord gave him credit for calling his name, even though he was actually calling for his son. This is a Jamila. So Harinam Japa is the way your mind can get latched to Krishna, can get hooked to Krishna. Because see, if your mind doesn't have an anchor, it's going to wander here and there, right? We discussed the other day that when we chant, that's when we realize how much our mind is not in our control. Because we're not able to focus on the mantra. So eventually you end up just chanting mechanically, but your mind is here, there, everywhere, but on the name of the Lord. How do you make sure that your intelligence is always hooked to Krishna? By reading Shastra, like the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. What about your senses? Because those 5 horses is going to take you in 5 different directions if the mind is not engaged properly. Therefore, even the senses have to be engaged. Your eyes, nose, ears, lips, and your sense of touch. Essentially, your body. Even your body has to be engaged in services. So your body has to be engaged physically in performing services. Your mind has to do japa, always thinking about Krishna. And your intellect should always be feeding from Shastra. So, Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Prasadam. These three things are important. Of course, other things are also important. So we have to chant, read, hear, and take prasadam. And we have to do it every day. Then, when we continue to do this every day for a lifetime, then we can remember Krishna. Otherwise, it is not possible. So if you remember Krishna, Krishna says, you'll come back to me. If you don't remember Krishna, Krishna says, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So just like Krishna is saying, if you remember me, you will come back to me without any doubt. Krishna is saying same thing. Without failure, you will achieve what you are thinking about. Just like Bharat Maharaj becomes a deer when he leaves his body, right? So, so the question is, when do we actually prepare for death? Actually, we are preparing for death from the time that we are taking birth. And that means we have to prepare for death right away. So many different ways you could die: in the hospital, in an accident, through a heart attack, through natural disasters. There's just no protection for us from death. So we always have to be ready to let go. Somebody said, you don't even need to pack a suitcase. You don't need to take anything with you, no luggage. Actually, what is the only luggage that you're taking with you? So let's make that a question. You don't have to pack your suitcase with your jewelry, your money, your family, your memories, etc. What are you packing and taking with you? Yeah, you're taking your bhakti with you. Yes, you're taking your karma with you as well. Your papa and punya are also traveling with you. Therefore, practice is the only thing that can help us succeed at the time of death. So then, of course, the next question is, how many of you want to take birth again? Are all of you prepared to take birth again? Not me. Okay. Never. No, 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 no. Okay. So you're convinced you don't want to take birth again? Why you don't want to take birth again? Why, what's the problem? Why are you so convinced that you don't want to take birth? Okay, you've had enough of this life. Why do we not want to take birth again? We don't want to go through the same cycle again. So then the next question is, because this life is miserable, yes, we are conditioned. Yes. So Krishna then switches to another topic. When Krishna says, whatever you think at the time of death, you will attain without fail. So my next question is, let us say at the time of death, you are in coma, but you've been doing bhakti for many years. What do you think will happen? So we are saying, death is a final exam for you. And if you want to pass that final exam, you have to prepare. So imagine if the exam date is tomorrow and you're doing preparation today, will you not be filled with fear or failure? But let us say you've prepared really well for the exam, but sometimes when you see the question paper, your mind just goes blank. Has it ever happened to you? Sometimes you see the question paper and you think, did I not study? How come I can't recognize any questions? I'm not able to make sense of the question. So let us say you have practiced all your life. At the time of death, you forget Krishna. So when we have our good faculties with us, when our mind is good, our body is good, we are healthy, then we should use it to practice bhakti. But if we forget Krishna, Krishna will not forget us. Krishna will remember this devotee has done so much bhakti. But if we don't do bhakti and at the time of death we are not able to remember Krishna, then simply we have to take birth again and again and suffer again and again. And as all of you have said, none of us want to go through this life of ups and downs and sufferings and a little bit of happiness, and some more suffering and a little bit of happiness. So our entire life is a preparation for the final exam of death. So how can we actually go to Krishna? What you're seeing, a picture depicted here, a painting, a beautiful painting of what's happening in Vaikuntha. In Vaikuntha, Lakshmi and Narayana are sitting on a throne. You can see all the Jivatmas also have this bluish complexion bodies, looking just like Vishnu, looking just like Narayana. But all of them are happy. Everybody's singing, everybody's dancing. There's no talking and there's no walking. It's just singing and dancing all the time in the company of the Supreme Lord. This is what we can expect in the spiritual world. So if our goal in life is to go back to Krishna, how do we do this? Why should we do it? And what should we do? I think the why and what is clear by now. How should we do this? Maybe we need to take a little time, because even though we hear it often, we forget it also. So Krishna is telling us, Ananyacheta sadatam yomam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabhav partha nityayuktasya yoginah. So Krishna is telling you how you can come back to him. Of course, he said you just have to remember me. But how? For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So Krishna is saying, bhakti must be performed constantly. There should be no interruption and no stopping. We should not say, only if the Lord gives me this, I will do bhakti. We should not say, when I have free time, I will do it. So we should always be hankering to remember the Lord. So this is an emergency for us because we do not know when death is going to come. So when you are in a state of emergency, you're always prepared. Otherwise, we can become very complacent and we can forget Krishna. So Krishna is telling us, what does his pure devotees, what do? They're always engaged in devotional service. They're always chanting, they're always reading, they're always hearing. They're coming to the temple to do seva, they're keeping Ekadasi fast, they're offering bhoga, they're doing Tulsi Arathi. So this is engaging your whole body, mind, senses, intelligence in Krishna consciousness. Ananya Cheta Sadatam. Sadatam means always. Ananya Cheta means nothing else is in your mind except Krishna. There's nobody else there to distract you. Nothing should distract you from Krishna. So if a very important minister comes to your house, would you say, I will meet you when I am free? Or will you set everything aside and rush to go meet and greet that particular minister? Obviously, we will do everything that we can to meet the minister because we understand he's an important person. So that important person is residing in your house in the form of Bhagavad Gita, in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the form of deities or deity pictures in your residence, in your puja room. So we shouldn't say, I will do it when I am free time. Because you don't know if you'll always have free time. If a child asks for a knife, will the mother allow the child to have a knife in the hand? Similarly, when we go in front of Krishna, we should not ask for mundane things because Krishna will say, that's not good for you. You may be excited about playing with a knife, but I'm not excited about giving you that knife. So just like a mother will protect her child, no matter how much the knife looks very tempting to the child, the mother knows that that knife is not good for the child. Similarly, when we pray to Krishna, we should pray for things that will take us back to him. Because if you ask for anything else, it's like he has to give you a knife in your hands and make your situation even worse than it already is. Krishna, as a loving father, certainly doesn't want to do it. Therefore, we should make time for him. We should demonstrate our love and affection for him on a daily basis. And to do that, we have to chant, read, hear, honor prasadam, and do a few other things that we will talk about. How to offer bhoga, how to do Tulsi worship. So today we'll watch a very short video on how to worship Tulsi Maharani. Because it's an important element of your sadhana, on your daily sadhana. So if a very famous personality is very, very busy, but somehow or the other he makes time to come to your house, then you can understand how much love and affection he must have for you, that he set aside everything just for you. Similarly, Krishna should be the most important person in our life. We should set aside everything to prioritize Krishna. Yeah. So even after hearing all of this, still if we don't want to chant the holy names of the Lord, still if we don't want to hear Harikatha, or read the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, or if we don't want to offer bhoga, we don't want to honor prasadam, then there is something wrong with us. That means we have not understood that the real problem for us is birth, death, old age, and disease. So if we've taken birth, then we have to go through the cycle of eventually giving up our body. So here Krishna is saying, Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayama shashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gataha. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. So we looked at the how, now we're looking at the why. The why is that when you get out of this material world and you go back to the spiritual world, you never come back ever again. That much Krishna is promising you. So Krishna is giving us an example. Who are these people who are doing this? They are these great yogis. They are the Mahatmas. They're constantly and systematically doing this kind of bhakti. And because they do that, they achieve the highest perfection, Krishna says. And they don't come back to this place which Krishna is calling Dukkhalayam. It's a miserable place, full of miseries. Ashashvatam. This place is going to get destroyed, beginning with your body, then with all of the rest of matter in the universe. Everything is going to get destroyed. So, a question may be asked, if I'm happy here, why should I leave? Then you understand that you really not understood the four miseries of life. If you've understood the four miseries of life, you'll do everything to not want it again. So when a child is in a mother's womb, it is so tightly packed, it is just looking and waiting to just get out. The Bhagavatam, in a conversation between Mother Devahuti and her son, Kapiladev, there is a detailed explanation of how the Jivatma actually develops within the womb. In what month the eyes come, in what month the soul occupies the body, etc., etc. And how much suffering this child within the womb is undergoing is also described. It is being bitten by worms all the time. It experiences intense stress. And simply that Jivatma is saying, please, Lord, I will never ever make the mistake of taking birth again. I don't want to occupy another womb. Please, just one time you release me from this wound, I will be your devotee for the rest of my life. That is what the child is thinking inside the womb, Bhagavatam says. As long as the child is within the womb, the child is only thinking, my dear Lord, I don't want to ever be in another womb like this. It's a miserable place. But at the same time, for the mother and the family, it's a joyous thing. But for the Jivatma occupying that womb, it's the most miserable thing. And the child is begging and pleading with the Lord, you please release me. The minute you release me, I will become your servant. I don't want to take this again. But what happens as soon as the child comes out of the womb? Oh, the mother showers the child with love and affection. The family members shower the child with love and affection. And pretty soon, the soul has forgotten his experience inside the womb. That's what the Bhagavatam says. That is how powerful Maya Devi is. And therefore, Krishna is saying, "A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartinorjuna Mam Upetyatu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate." Krishna is saying, from the highest planet in material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death takes place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So again and again, Krishna is assuring us that if we go back to the spiritual world in this life, we need not worry, we need not be afraid, we will never come back. So if we want to avoid this cycle of birth and death, then our objective should be to go back to Krishna. Just like birth is extremely painful, death is also equally painful. The Shastras say that when the soul leaves the body experiences pain equivalent to thousands of scorpions biting it simultaneously. So you can imagine how painful death is, how painful birth is. And Krishna is saying, do you know what? Even the highest Loka, Satya Loka, Brahma also has to leave his body. So he takes birth, he dies. Below the Satya Loka is Satapo Loka, where the Sanat Kumaras stay and all of the great rishis stay. Below that is the Jana Loka, where all the Prajapatis, the 7 sages are. That's their residence. Below the Jana Loka is the Mahar Loka, where Bhrigu Muni and many other great saints live. Then the Swarga Loka is where the Devatas reside, like Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Ganesha, Kartikeya. All of them live in the place called Swarga Loka. Then in Bhuvar Loka, this is the place of our ancestors and Rakshasas and ghosts. Then Bhur Loka, which is where we are, where Earth is one of the planets. Then below the earthly planets, the middle planetary systems as it is called, There is Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. And here, this table clearly shows you who stays where, in which Sloka who is residing. Like for example, in Sutala Lok, Pali Maharaj is there. In Talatala, all the Asuras are there. The demon Maya, he is a resident there. In Mahatala, there are these Nagas, snakes with thousands of hoods, hundreds and thousands of hoods. Then Vasuki, the serpent, is there in Patal Lok. So Krishna is saying, no matter which planetary system you go to, there is birth and death. Yeah, Brahma has to give up his life, Indra has to give up his life, Chandra has to give up his life, Varuna has to give up his life. So Krishna is essentially telling you what is the difference between the spiritual world and the material world. So on the left is a picture of what the spiritual world is like based on descriptions given in Srimad Bhagavad. Similarly, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a description of how this material universe is constructed. Let me see if I can make this any bigger. Yeah. So if you look at this, Krishna says, this is just one universe. At the bottom of this universe is Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. From his navel is Brahma at the top here. I don't know if you can see my pointer. Okay. So you can see Lord Vishnu is laying down on Adishesha. This is Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. From his navel all the way up comes a lotus flower on top of which is Brahma. So that is Brahma Loka. And in that stem of this lotus are all the other planetary systems that we've talked about. But this is just only one universe. Like this, there are millions and billions of universes with Jivatmas in every one of them. Within this universe, there are millions and trillions of planets. So this universe is called Anda. Within that Anda, there are so many Jivatmas, so many planetary systems. Like this, there are millions and trillions of Andas, universes. Krishna says in every one of them, birth, death, old age, and disease takes place. It is unavoidable because that's just the design. So Krishna has talked about the difference between the spiritual universe and the material universe. In the spiritual universe, everything is eternal. You are all knowledgeable and you are all blissful. We may think going to the heavenly planets would be so nice. We can enjoy ourselves. Well, think again, because there is death there as well. Only in Vaikuntha, there is no birth, death, old age, and disease. So no matter where you go in the material world, you are going to deal with these four issues: birth, death, old age, and disease. So here in the shloka, Krishna is saying, Avyakto kshara ityuktaha tamahuh paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That which the Vedantas describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as a supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. So Krishna is describing not himself. He is saying, my devotees, the great jnanis, they have also understood that the spiritual world is never created. It always existed. There is no fault or defect in the spiritual world. That is the ultimate destination for everyone. And once you achieve that ultimate destination, Krishna says, we never return back. There, we are always enjoying ourselves with Krishna. Therefore, spirituality it does not mean we are aiming to reach heaven. Our aim is to attain the lotus feet of Krishna. So that is the real meaning of spirituality. So let's understand this through a simple example. One husband and wife, they reach the spiritual world. And they've gone to the spiritual world after many, many lifetimes of birth. So when they go to the spiritual world, they see a beautiful garden. And they ask somebody there, is all of this free? And that person says, yes, of course. You can take whatever you want. Then they look at, an area where there's just so much opulent food available. And they ask, is this free? And the person says, yes, you can take whatever you want. Then they come to a place where there's so much jewelry. They ask, is this free? They say, yeah, you can take whatever you want. You can wear whatever you want. Everything is free. So the husband looks at the wife and he scolds her and he says, no, why did you delay bringing me here? If you knew that this place was problem-free and it was always a place you could get anything that you wanted and you are always happy, why did you delay? Why did it take us so long to come here? But still, after hearing all of this, many of us will still think, well, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I still have to figure things out. Why do we feel that? Because we don't have a clear understanding or we don't have the interest to go back. So that is the unique nature of Maya. She captivates you so much, even though you are shown the truth, we may not be ready. We may think, no, I have to think it over. Therefore, spirituality is not about simply going to a better place. It's actually about engaging in seva with the Supreme Lord. How is pure devotion performed? This is the last section of this chapter. Krishna says some very simple things in how we offer bhoga to him, how we do tulsi puja every day. These are little things that we can perform to capture the attention and please Krishna. So in the very last shloka of this chapter, Krishna says, Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvam idam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So, Krishna is telling us why we should perform bhakti. More than any other process. Because by performing bhakti, Krishna says you get the same benefit as having studied all the Vedas. You get the same benefits as having done all kinds of tapas and yajnas. You get the same kind of benefits as having performed wonderful charity. And you get the same benefits as having performed all kinds of fruitive activities. Essentially, Krishna is saying, bhakti is the topmost because when you perform bhakti, you are spiritually successful and you are materially successful. So simply by performing bhakti, Krishna says you get all these benefits. You don't have to go study the Vedas in detail. You don't have to be like the rishis doing 1,000-year sacrifices like the sages did in Naimisharanya. You don't have to do intense tapas like Ravana or Hiranyakashipu. You don't have to offer all of your kingdom like Bali Maharaj did, including himself. Simply by doing a little bit of bhakti, by offering a lotus leaf at the lotus feet, the tulsi leaf at the lotus feet of the Lord, you can capture Krishna's heart. So pure devotion is the key for us to going back to Krishna. So much so, by simply making this as a part of our life, we can always remember Krishna. So there's this beautiful shloka from the Bhagavatam 12th canto, which is the last canto of Bhagavatam, the 3rd chapter, the 51st verse. Kaler doshe doshanide rajan astheko mahan gunaha kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangaf param rajet. My dear king, here this is Parikshit Maharaj talking, being spoken to by Shukadev Goswami, because they're talking about Kali Yuga now. My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. If you do that, Mukta Sangha Param Rajet. Yes, Kali Yuga is not the best of the yugas among the 4 yugas. But there is one thing that Krishna has made sure that makes it easy for you to go back to him. Even though in Kali Yuga, the Jivatmas will face so many difficulties. Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. All we have to do is chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By doing this, we will all go back to Krishna in this lifetime itself. That is what Krishna is assuring us. But we must have faith and we must be determined that we want to go back to Krishna. That has to be your priority. Therefore, Krishna is saying pure devotion is the best. So simply we have to do Nama Japa. We have to offer Bhoga. We have to keep Ekadasi fasting. We have to worship Tulsi Maharani every day. These are the simple basics of performing bhakti. What will we get? We will get Krishna himself. Therefore, bhakti is superior. Krishna is the topmost. And the conclusion also tells us how we should worship him through simple activities, and that begins with chanting. So how do we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? We can chant the Panchatattva mantra once, and then we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra 108 times. So if you chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra 108 times, that is considered one mala. So at a minimum, for those who are new to chanting, you should make a commitment today that Krishna is the goal of my life. Since all of you have said none of you want to take birth again, that seems to be a majority opinion today. So certainly we should do our best to chant the holy names of the Lord repeatedly. You can, if you don't have the mala, you can count on your the fingers of both your hands. If you do have the mala, then make a commitment that you want to chant at least one round or one mala every day. If you can do 4, that is fantastic. If you can do 8, that is even better. If you can do 12, that's outstanding. If you do 16, that is just super perfect. So many of us, after coming to these classes, after many years, we are still stuck in one round. We have to ask ourselves why. We should go way past just doing one mala every day. We should be so determined that we want to go back to Krishna. Come hell or high water, I will chant 16 hymns. I will keep Ekadasi fast. I will worship Tulasi Maharani every day. I will offer bhoga. Tomorrow we will talk and watch a video about how to offer bhoga. So if it's all right with you, let us watch a very short video about how to actually perform Tulasi worship. There is no instruction here, but simply by watching the video, I think you will be able to figure out what you have to do, because you see the details of what is being done. So here, this particular video, the song is titled Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha. When we worship a devotee of the Lord is even more pleased with us than when we try to worship him directly. So one such pure devotee of the Lord is Tulasi Maharani. So simply by bowing down to her, all kinds of sins get wiped away. And when we offer her at the lotus feet of Krishna, Krishna becomes very, very pleased with us. So let's watch this short video. I think you should be able to hear the sound.
Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha. Radha Krishna Seva Pabo जे तुम्हार शरण लो तार वांछा पूर्ण हो कृपा करी करो तारे वृंदावन वासी विलास कुंजे दियो नयन हेरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि नयन हेरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि निवेदन धर सखीरनुगत करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासे कोई न मोर होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदाए न भासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदाए न भासी
So in this particular video, what we saw, the sequence, first you have to have an Achaman cup before you. And how to make Achaman water also, we can tell you. But essentially, we begin the worship of Tulsi Maharani in the morning by offering her incense sticks. After that, you saw flowers being offered, after which you saw a ghee lamp being offered. After the ghee lamp is offered and the 3 items, so you're worshipping Tulsi Maharani with 3 items, incense sticks, and it has to be an odd number. Not 1, but you can have 3, 5, 7, like that. You should not have even number of incense sticks. It should always be odd. Then flowers you can offer. Then offer a simple ghee lamp. Water her 3 drops. If you overwater Tulsi Maharani, that may not be very nice because she may just die due to overwatering. Then you offer your obeisances to her and circumambulate her 4 times every day. You can worship her twice a day, but you should worship her at least once a day if you cannot do it both times of the day. In the morning, it should be part of your sadhana. So, and then once you pour a little bit of water into Tulsi Maharani, you take a little bit of that dirt and you apply it on your forehead, just a little bit, because you're taking the dust from the lotus feet of Tulsi Maharani and applying it on your forehead. So you can simply incorporate this simple way of worshipping Tulsi Devi because Tulsi Devi is so dear to Krishna. Where is she always found? Where is she found?
Krishna's lotus feet.
She's always at the Lord's lotus feet. And that is where the devotees want to be. The devotees always want to be at the lotus feet of the Lord. So all of you can do this simple worship. Tomorrow we will see how to actually offer bhoga because Krishna is going to ask for bhoga from you tomorrow in the 9th chapter. So with that, we've concluded the 8th chapter. If there are any questions, please raise your hand. You can ask your questions. We'll try our best to answer them. Yeah. Any questions about today's chapter? Today's chapter was actually about death. We didn't cover some interesting details. When we die, what time we die, what time of the year that we die, what all happens. Those things are not important. For us, the only thing that is important is how do we remember Krishna at the time of death? And to remember Krishna at the time of death, we have to be practicing how to remember Krishna throughout our life. And the earlier we start, that's better. And as Krishna said, it should never be stopped. There should be no interruption. Sadatam should be always done. No matter what happens in your life, what calamity comes, what distress comes, you should always be thinking of Krishna and worshiping Krishna. That is how you can remember Krishna at the time of death. Okay. Any questions? Okay. If there are no questions, then we'll conclude today's session. Yes, Sapna Mataji, you have a question.
Mataji, for the Tulsi Devi, offer incenses, flowers, ghee lamp, and then what after that?
A little bit of water. And then you can offer your, you can do pradakshina 4 times, after which you will offer your obeisances to her. So before you begin Tulsi worship, you will offer obeisances. Then you finish worshipping her, water her, do your pradakshina. Again, you will offer obeisances. So this should take about maybe 7-8 minutes to worship Tulsi Maharani properly.
And incense sticks? 3 of them. Correct, Mataji? 3.
Three.
Okay.
Okay, it can be 5, it can be 7. It has to be a odd number. It cannot be an even number.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. How to count Hare Krishna on the fingers? On the fingers of one hand, you can count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's 12. 12 mantras. So these 12 mantras, if you repeat it 9 times, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 12 nines are 108. So one mala, you can use both hands and the 4 fingers of 3 fingers of one hand and 4 fingers of the other hand. And you can figure out how you have chanted 108. Yeah. So if you finish 12 on this, then you've counted 1. Then another 12, then another 12, another 12, another 12, another 12. That's 6. Another 12, another 12, another 12. That's 9. So 9 times 12 will be 108. So that is how you chant using both your hands. So having a bead is much easier to do. You don't have to worry about keeping track of the movement of your fingers, because sometimes you'll forget, did I move or not? So the focus should be on, did I chant or not? Yes. So that's the way you chant using your fingers. Okay. Thank you for asking that question. Any other questions? Why should we worship Tulsi? Because we are worshipping a pure devotee of the Lord, and it is also said that anyone who performs Tulsi worship or keeps Tulsi Devi at home, Yamaraj doesn't visit that house at the time of death. Okay. Any other questions? You can unmute yourself actually. If you want, you can just raise your hand and unmute yourself. Can we offer milk to Tulsi Maharani, meaning as bhoga? Or as what? You mean water her, or you use milk to water her? I'm not sure what is the question. What happens if we count more than 108 times? Nothing happens. Every name, every mantra that you chant of the complete mantra that you chant is going to benefit you, no doubt about it. So there's nothing to worry about if you chant more than 108. Should we worship Tulasi and then offer it to the feet of Krishna? Not necessarily. You can pluck the Tulsi leaves, keep it ahead of time, because you will first worship Krishna and only then you will worship Tulsi Maharani. So the sequence of worship is you begin your day by worshipping Shri Radha Krishna or whatever Vishnu deities you have at home. After completing the worship of the Lord, then you will worship Tulsi Maharani, which means you should have already plucked some Tulsi and offered it to the Lord. First, the Lord is worshipped first, and then Tulsi Maharani is worshipped. Okay. Okay. Abhinav Prabhu, I hope that answers your question. Okay, update on the health. Yes, my mother is doing better. So she's been moved out of the ICU into the general ward. We're hoping and praying that she'll be released from the hospital tomorrow, but we're not sure. It all depends on how her health is performing. She's still receiving medication on the IV for the stomach ulcers. So thank you again for all of your prayers. For my husband, I think he will go in for surgery on Monday to remove the tumor. And he will be in the hospital for 4 or 5 days. So that is the situation. Yes, a lot of personal challenges, but that's okay. You have to have faith in Krishna. We don't know what Krishna's plan is. And also we don't know what Krishna's message is. For me personally, I have to think about it. Yes. Thank you. Yes, I am sure that Srimati Radharani will shower her mercy on me, because so many of you have prayed very sincerely and with so much love and affection. I really appreciate it. I'm so fortunate to have so many of you praying for my mother and praying for my husband, praying for me. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Okay. Any other questions? So thank you so much. So tomorrow join us for chapter 9. It's an interesting chapter. It's a little longer chapter. We may take a little bit more time than we normally did. Yeah. Thank you so much. Mancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Thank you so much, devotees. Hare Krishna. We will see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Krishna
So such a
Mataji.
beautiful session.
Namaste.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.